Welcome to Sense of Style. I'm Stuart. 8 fragrances that exude decadence. And according to Google, decadence is moral decay caused by overindulgence in pleasure and luxury. And I had a pleasurable time coming up with this list because I took all of the main candidates that I had and I tried them all on, and boy, oh boy, was that a deep, dark, rich experience. So the fragrances we're looking for today are ones that you would think has been very indulgent. So it was a lot of fun. And so, yeah, we're looking at like sexy, like really sexy fragrances, really gourmandy fragrances, really boozy fragrances, that kind of thing. Let's get to it. Fragrance number 1, this is Frederic Malle's Musc Ravageur, and this is without question the most decadent fragrance in my collection. If you look at this quote below, this came from Fragrantica, more than 300 people agreed with it, and I certainly agree with it. When you start talking about rock star and porn star, and it also mentions, you know, the good and the bad, that's really what you're dealing with here. Now, the beautiful thing about this is it may be the best vanilla that I've ever tried. It's vanilla, amber, and tonka, but it comes off as vanilla. There's some cinnamon in there, so it comes off as this absolutely fantastic vanilla, really nice sweetness. But they got so many disgusting notes in there, animal notes and musk. They've got cloves and gaiac wood, so it's the dark and the light mixed together. Now, I think maybe I like the sweetness because it's contrasted so starkly with the dark notes, but either way, it's incredibly sexy, incredibly seductive, and it is one of the fragrances that it's one of my top 10. I absolutely love it, but even so, because it's so seductive, I literally have to think about when I'm going to wear it, because I don't know about most women, but the occasional woman will smell it and go, oh my God, this guy's got to be on the make if he's wearing that. That's the kind of overindulgence and decadence that this fragrance reflects, at least to me anyway. Fragrance number 2, this is Parfums de Marly's Althair, and I ordered some fragrances over Christmas, and they were kind enough to put a sample in of Althair, which is great because it is the fragrance of the year according to Fragrantica. I got to admit, this one kind of went over my head a little bit. I knew it was okay. I talked to somebody like that I know really well from the channel, and they'd said that they really enjoyed it, but I still didn't think it was going to be like the fragrance of the year kind of popularity. And then I tried it, and then I understood why. It reminded me at first, more than anything, of Jean-Paul Gaultier's Le Male Elixir. And I thought for sure all Parfums de Marly did was they took that formula of really sweet and warm fragrance, and they just made a niche version of it. But there are 3 notes in there: orange blossom, ambroxan, and elemi, that are quite fresh. You don't notice them that much at first, but then they start to show themselves, and the fragrance gets fresher and not quite as sweet as Le Male Elixir. It starts to turn into something similar to Club Black, but it's warmer than Club Black. So it's kind of like in between Elixir. At the beginning, it's more like Elixir, and then at the end, for most of the fragrance, it's more like Club Black, but it's absolutely gorgeous. Now, there is a lot of sweetness there. Candied almonds, there's pralines, which is essentially candied nuts, and vanilla, so it is very, very sweet and warm. And then there's some spicy cinnamon in there too, but yeah, it really, really is nice, and the performance is, you know, typical Parfums de Marly. Parfums de Marly do Oriental style sweet and spicy fragrances just about better than anybody. Fragrance number 3, this is Jean-Paul Gaultier's Le Beau. And when I moved to Australia when I was 12, I was living in Canada, so we had to fly through Hawaii. We stayed there for 2 or 3 days, and I thought Hawaii was the greatest place on earth for one reason. See, I grew up in the tropics, so I love sweet coconut. And then we went to a restaurant, and instead of maple syrup when we were ordering our pancakes, they had coconut syrup. And I thought I was in heaven. I love sweet coconut, and this is a sweet coconut masterpiece. I have Jean-Paul Gaultier's Le Beau Paradise Garden, but all they did with that was really plunk a green accord at the top. But if you're looking for a fragrance that is really deep and dark and rich and smells like coconut cake or coconut cream pie, this is the one to go for because that green accord makes Paradise Garden more wearable. And yeah, I'm going to reach for that in the summer more than likely. But any other time, like anytime I want to smell like the really deep, rich fragrance, I always go to this one because I love sweet coconut so much. Fragrance number 4, Cartier's Déclaration d'un Soir. Now, this is not the fragrance that you would think would be on this list for overindulgence, but the definition did say excessive luxury. And when I think of luxury, when I think of wearing a tuxedo, when I think of the older overindulgence of the super wealthy going to all their black tie affairs and charity events, things like that, I always think of this fragrance. Now, I paid $45. I still remember it vividly for this fragrance. It's about at least double that now. I paid $45 for it, so it's pretty inexpensive. And yet, if I was going to a black tie event, there's no other fragrance I would wear. This smells like wealth. It smells like what someone would wear when they put on a tuxedo, especially in the beginning. So it's a powdery rose, and the powderiness is backed up with sandalwood. So powdery sandalwood and powdery rose. But it's the spices, especially the black pepper. There's caraway seeds and black pepper. It's the fresh spiciness that really punch through the powdery rose. It kind of sparkles. There are a couple of warm, spicy notes, but to me, it's the fresh spicy. It's the peppery spicy that really makes this fragrance absolutely fantastic. And it just, yeah, it smells like money. Fragrance number 4, this is Khamrah by Lattafa, and this is one of the first fragrances I thought of for this list because unlike Musc Ravageur, where the sweetness is balanced with the darkness, or other sweet fragrances that have spicy elements, this thing just goes all in on the gourmand. It's like it's just a sweet bomb, and the performance is unreal. It lasts for such a long time. So it's a lot of vanilla, tonka, and 2 warm resins. And then you've got some cinnamon. But the real sweet part to me are the pralines. Again, candied nuts and dates. Very sweet and very rich. It's just so strong. And for the price, the performance is just off the charts. The performance is so strong. Normally, when I put a fragrance on, I'll go nose blind to it after the first half hour or so. I noticed this thing on me after 4 hours. It's super strong. Fragrance number 6, this is Club de Nuit Intense Woman, and this is the second most decadent fragrance in my collection. This is a clone of Tom Ford's Noir de Noir, which means black of black, and it is the rich darkness and depth of this fragrance that makes it so indulgent. It really is. It's one of those ones that's so strong and so powerful and dark. It is pleasant, but it's just dark. It's just so strong that I'm like, okay, I better be careful where I'm going to be wearing this. So it is an oud fragrance first and foremost with rose and saffron, but it emphasizes the rose. So it's a powdery rose. That's why it's Club de Nuit Intense Woman. But it's also a ton of patchouli. The darkness of the oud and the darkness of the patchouli is the dark on the dark. And that's what makes it so indulgent. And there's vanilla in this, a lot of sweetness in this as well. I would love to compare this now to Noir de Noir. I bet you this one would put up a good fight because it is fantastic. If you like oud, or if you like patchouli and dark fragrances, if you like rose, oh boy, you got to get this one. Fragrance number 7, this is Tom Ford's Noir Extreme, and this is the one fragrance on the list where I think of it as being indulgent and decadent in 2 different ways. So first off, the gourmandy way. So this is vanilla, amber, and kulfi. So the kulfi is like a creamy ice cream, and it takes the sweetness of the vanilla and moves it in a creamy direction. And then you have the addition of the powdery sandalwood, and it just feels very decadent and very rich. But then you get some spicy elements. There's cardamom and nutmeg, the warmth of that. and it also becomes like a very seductive fragrance. So this one would work as a really nice, warm date night fragrance with certain gourmandy elements. It kind of works in both ways. It's got really good performance. It is powdery for a sweet fragrance, which is something that's I find fairly rare. And then it's got the mastic note, which is kind of like turpentine that just puts the cherry on top and really makes it something different and something special. This is a wonderful fragrance. Fragrance number 8, and boy, oh boy, some of my favorite fragrances I'm talking about today. This is Hardwood by Fragrance World. And this fragrance taught me about combining vanilla and the vanilla sweetness. There's actually vanilla, tonka, and amber, but in generally like something very, very sweet, and then adding booze to it. Kind of like Givenchy Gentleman Reserve Privé, because that's what they do here. They take that sweetness and then they add cognac, and it just works. It takes the sweetness and moves it in a slightly more masculine direction. Then this is a clone of actually Bath & Body Works Mahogany Wood. So there's also a very woody component, which makes it more masculine. But I think it's the cognac or the boozy element combined with the vanilla that I really like. And I think a lot of people like it. And whether you buy this fragrance, which is by Fragrance World, it's the clone, or whether you buy the original Mahogany Woods, the sweetness in there is really worth it. And in this clone, man, performance is good too. So yeah, it was a lesson in indulgence and decadence today. And yeah, I mean, it really was a fun time coming up with these fragrances, because I had like 20 fragrances I put on, and the house really smelled good. Anyway, thanks for watching.